Hey, folks, welcome back to Health and Tech with Unlimited with Exceptions and Amanda Nystrom, National Health Board Certified Health and Well-Being Coach. Amanda, what are we talking about today?
Hi, JD. We are talking about, we're continuing the topic we had last time because you and I both agreed that we didn't get into it enough, which is continuing stress management and looking at how the different types of stress affect us.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap in case people missed the last episode. What are the two main types of stress?
So we've got threat based, which is essentially when your body goes into fight or flight. But some of us are really high performing threat based managers. So it can also just look like the um how best to put it? Like I'm not sure how to handle this. I can't handle it, or it's overwhelming, or I feel like this is going to end up affecting who I am as a person, or I'm going to be shamed. That's threat based. And then we have challenge based, which is known as the good type of stress. And it's when you're facing any kind of situation, you look at it with the mindset of, I got this. What can I learn from this? This
How do I solve
sucks,
this
but I'm going to do
problem?
it.
Yeah, how do I solve this problem? This is an opportunity, that type of thing. And we also discussed that Scientology cult term, telomeres.
That's not the Scientology cult term.
It sounds like a Scientology cult term. But
Okay.
regardless of that, let's give us another 30 seconds. What are the telomeres? We know that, yes, in fact, these are real. They are a DNA based thing. There's been research on them that has, returned a Nobel Peace Prize. There's a great book called The Telomere Effect. Do you have that near you to show the book?
Ew.
All right. So this is real stuff. This is science. This isn't granola based, grandma told grandma and therefore it's true. This is the real deal. Give us just a little bit on that.
So telomeres are basically the end cap to your DNA strand, your chromosomes, and it helps keep everything secure and continuing to produce in a way that they need to, right? Because cells divide, and as they divide, their telomere length can either continue to be strong, or over time, as we age, they get shorter. And the things that we do, why this is relevant, the things that we do now actually affect our telomere length. And studies have shown over and over again that the shorter our telomere length, the shorter our lifespan.
And so, what we're talking about today is how stress and the types of stress that we have and the lack of management of stress shorten our telomeres and therefore cause us to die a lot sooner.
I mean,
I mean, now I think let's put a disclaimer here. There are other factors that involve death, right? But a lot of it's around your telomeres. Do you know if, for example, we know that smoking can reduce your lifespan, regardless of lung cancer? Yes, it can reduce your lifespan. Does smoking reduce your telomere length?
according to this book, yes.
Okay, so what we do is we have a correlation between those who smoke and the shrinking of telomeres, which in also has a correlation to a shorter lifespan. What we're doing is we're talking about not smoking, but we're talking about how stress does the exact same thing. So give us a little bit on that. How does stress are we talking about just threat-based stress, or does the good stress also do it as well?
So actually, it's been shown that the good type of stress, challenge-based stress, can add resiliency to your telomeres, and so it goes into this process called telomeres or telomeres. I haven't figured out how to
Oh,
pronounce
that
that
was the
one yet.
Telemundo comment from last episode. Telemundo, telomeres.
Where it rebuilds your telomeres because it adds that resiliency, which is
Okay, and I'm not trying to interrupt you. This is just fascinating. So what you just said is that challenge-based stress The opportunity-based stress is like going to the gym for your muscles, but for your telomeres instead.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we need is a lot more productive stress, which causes a strengthening and or callousing of the weaknesses of your telomeres, and a lot less of asshole employers who abuse you.
Yes, but I think it's deeper than that, right? It's not just external because 'cause we're really hard on ourselves too. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up today, as to the way that threat-based stress manifests, is it comes in ways that you don't really think about, like pessimism, right? Seeing the negative side of things. And the
Okay,
pessimism.
yes, but isn't that caused by external factors? Parents' criticism, grandparents' criticism, teacher criticism.
It can be, but it can also be a personality trait, and our personality traits usually are not something that tend to evolve, um, based on others. Like, they're something that we have and we can mature them, we can change them a little bit, but for the most part, we have our personality traits. You know, like a woman who goes into a relationship trying to change a man, and that's just not how it works,
Isn't that
right?
every woman? I'm not I'm look, and please, the misses that are watching, I'm not trying to be negative, or even judgmental, it's more observational. I have never met a woman, any woman, that who is involved in a male-female relationship that doesn't somehow try to change their man. Now, there are positives and negatives to that because we're damn cave dwellers, so don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I mean, come on.
Well, to get back to the point, um, our telomeres really like, they don't sweat the small stuff. But toxic stress, the stress that's chronic, that can be induced, like you mentioned, by a boss that does not affirm their employees or take care of the company in a way that balances that, or external stress from nonstop pressure, that can come from there, but it also manifests in how we treat ourselves. And that nonstop stress is what shortens our telomeres. If you just have occasional threat-based stress and otherwise, it doesn't affect you, your telomeres are probably great.
So, are you suggesting that it is because you said a lot of it's internal, right? And a lot of our personality traits aren't connected to our environment. I'm not sure I agree with that. I would argue that a lot of I mean, there's obviously core personality traits in terms of whether or not you're a go getter or not, for example, but a lot of that is hereditary.
So let me give you the list of things that I learned that are the, I guess, measurements that they use in this book specifically regarding the types of threat-based stress that are unhealthy for telomeres. That's where I'm talking about when it comes to your personality. So the first one is hostility, and it usually is just like it manifests in irritation with others. You don't know what that one's like at all.
I am in a persistent state of rebuilding and destroying my telomeres. Let's put it that way.
The second one is pessimism. Like we said, seeing that the everything's gonna work out for the worst. Personality trait. Also mind wandering, which was really interesting to me. I had no idea that the more that you are off in la la land, whatever that is for you, it actually shortens your telomeres. What?
Do they have a hypothesis as to why?
So when you are unifocus, I think is the term that they used, just, hyper focused or just in the moment. Your brain has the ability to be calm, and it's like you're in the zone. Some people call it zen, some people call it, various different things, but you are enabling your brain to be content. When you are mind wandering, your brain is basically in fight or flight because you're going all over the place and you're not content with where you're at. And so it's like this nonstop movement for your brain and it can't settle. And it puts your brain in a stressed based feeling, right? And it triggers all of those chemicals.
Okay, I think where I struggled was the term mind wandering because when I think about it, mind wandering to me is like daydreaming, but that's not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is, for example, an observed effect if you take social media to bed, right? You go to bed and you open your phone to social media, and then your brain just goes with all the what ifs because all social media is everything in the universe you have no power over, and it hits you all at once. And then your brain goes, okay, so that makes more sense because, like I said, what I was thinking was, you know, I'm in the hammock with a cocktail and I'm thinking about why aren't we fishing? But I don't want to go fishing because I'm in a hammock with a cocktail. That's not mind wandering. That's daydreaming. That's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
so what
I
are the
wanna see you in a hammock with a cocktail because hammocks are like this and cocktails are also
no, easy. You use a pint glass and you only fill it halfway. Do
ingenious in a
not
way.
question my problem solving when it comes to cocktails. I mean, seriously?
I just said I'd like to see it, that's all I said.
No, the reason you wanna see it is because if I'm in a hammock, so are you. That's why you wanna see it. Alright, back to point, though, back to point. So we got the mind wandering thing. Let's come back to that because that's actually pretty fascinating. I think we can bring some real context to our tech audience in regards to that. But what else is there?
Multitasking.
There's no such thing.
So, it yes, in your definition, it is defined by exactly what you define it as, which is constantly, context switching. So you're looking at
Great
your
term.
chat, then you open your email, then you go to your ticket that you need to open, and then you're working on some code in the background, and you're waiting for that to finish, and so you open Instagram, and then you go to Amazon and forget all of that, you go back to YouTube, and then there's chat because there's people talking to you, right? It's you are not focused at all. And it's along the same lines as mind wandering, right? It triggers the same kind of you are all over the place, and so your brain is trying to fight for its sanity. But we don't think about it that way because it's now an ingrained habit, right?
Well, we don't think about it because we're too busy being ingrained by insanity. We're not being what is the term that you use? Mindful. That's the term you use. We are not being mindful about our mind use.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that word because it also brings up when we are multitasking and we're going from thing to thing to thing, we often actually ignore the signs that our body tells us or shows us that we feel like we need to actually get up and move or we're uncomfortable or something is off. And so we tend to ignore those things. And over time, our tolerance for ignoring our bodies gets higher and higher to the point where we don't even realize that we have a problem until something hits the fan or we go to the doctor and all of a sudden like our blood pressure's up here. Whereas had we taken the time to take a step back and listen instead of just going from thing to thing to thing to thing, we would have been much better able to provide a proactive response.
Okay. Are there any others on the list?
Rumination.
I am not bovine. What do you mean by that?
Rumination is the act of essentially not letting things go. So something happened, it
Ruminating.
didn't. Yes. You didn't things didn't go the way you wanted, and so you hold on to it, and often it comes with a whole lot of shame or guilt. And, even things that happened 20, 30 years ago, they keep coming up in your brain and you obsess over them. But it also happens with what's going on in our day to day. Like, I had this big thing coming up and I can't stop thinking about it. So it affects my entire livelihood for that duration of time because I am not present. I'm over here somewhere thinking about whatever that is, and I have no idea what's actually going on. And so you live on autopilot.
So let's talk about that one for a minute because look, self-reflection is good. Consideration of problems is good, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about um I'm just giving you an example because there's a billion and a half of them. But 2 years ago, we got into a fight and you said X, and now I'm angry at you again. That's ruminating. That is not, and it's not so much as a letting go because although I use the term a lot, I think it's a term that is weak in an analysis of the problem. You can't let this shit go. It is with you forever because if you're sitting there going like this with it, it's because it triggered a memory or excuse me, it triggered an emotion which causes you to store it in memory, right? So it's not that you can let it go, but what you can do is heal it.
One of the famous MBSR, mindful based stress reduction creators, John Kabat-Zinn, he says, let it
Okay.
be. And like you're right, some things we can't let go of, but we can let it rest, let it be, and not constantly fill ourselves with those negative emotions of what I should have done differently.
Yeah, well, and specifically, it's not that you're not sitting with a current problem and considering what you couldn't do differently. It's that you're starting to sit with a problem that is past, right? If you're sitting with a problem that is past, there's no productivity in that, right? There's no healing in that. There's no positive opportunity for improvement. You're just sitting there feeling bad.
There's, like you said, I mean, there's definitely room for self-awareness and learning, right? That's how we make better decisions in the future. But like you said, if we ruminate on it and we don't let it be, it becomes a threat-based stress to our well-being.
Okay, so we started this with that term, threat-based stress, and now we've gone through the basics of the different types of threat-based stress.
There's
What do
one
we
more.
do to forgive me, one more. What is the creme de crop?
Thought suppression.
Explain that.
Well, when there's a situation such as one that you gave examples of that you don't bring up at all. You hide it in a box in the closet and do not let it come out, except for those times when typically, at least in my experience, what happens is those thoughts only come out when all the other thoughts are hitting me and life is just like rar and it's just nonstop. Right. And that's when they come out and they try to attack you. But you don't allow yourself the time in your day to day to process whatever that is. That's just something
You're
that
talking
gets
about burying,
avoided. Yeah,
burying. Um, there are times that are brief where that is appropriate, but it is never good. And I think that's something that a lot of people I mean, I do it. If I have something that is deeply bothering me, um, it may be appropriate to bury it because, well, you and I are going out to, and this isn't about you, by the way, because I just know after this podcast, you're gonna come out and be like, what's deeply bothering you? This isn't about you and I, but something deeply bothering you, you bury it so you can go out to dinner and have a good time. okay? Or get your job done, or whatever the case may be. But the problem, while that's appropriate, it kinda the dirt pile gets bigger on top of it. And then exactly like you said, what essentially happens is eventually something will trigger you, or a lot of things will trigger you for whatever reason, and then the fucking demons and zombies come out from all that stuff that you've been burying. Some of it you don't even remember that you did it. And that's what I mean by sometimes it's appropriate, but it's never good.
And all of this, in moderation, right, is not gonna shorten your telomeres. It's when it becomes your thought pattern, right? This is how things happen. If something happens that makes me uncomfortable, I'm gonna bury it, right? If that becomes autopilot, it slowly eats at you, literally and figuratively. Like, your telomeres do not handle that well. And so the great thing about all of these negative things, if that's even a reasonable statement to say, is that we can, over time, switch our patterns to challenge-based stress to a point where they start building back the muscles of our telomeres and enabling us to actually, have extend our life.
So I don't want to, I'm not trying to come off as trite or give, silly metaphors, but it's what people hold on to, right? They're the nerdy people, yourself, um, and myself, depending on what we're talking about. Um, we like the deep, comprehensive discussion. We like the science-based facts. We like to really dig deep. But from a quip perspective, it seems like what you're actually saying is that while there's a whole movement to be bodily healthy, for example, the Maha movement, that, let's eat real food, let's exercise, those types of things. We're still ignoring the other side, which is the actual health movement, which is your mental and emotional health, which is all everything we're talking about right now is mental and emotional health. Stress is all about mental and emotional health. And the reason why it is so important to quote unquote exercise our telomeres and make them stronger and longer, okay, is because it's a cycle. If you are fat and out of shape, your mental health is not going to be good. If your mental health is not good, you are not going to get unfat and in shape, right? You're not going to have if your mental health is bad, you're not going to have good relationships. If you don't have good relationships, you're not going to have good mental health. It's a cycle. So you can't do one without the other. You end up lopsided. I mean, you're talking what's his name? Um Bateman in American Psycho. Good looking, upstanding, charismatic, in shape, kills women
That escalated
because
quickly.
he's a psycho, right? He doesn't have the balance. So what would you like to close this out with outside of my movie reference?
I don't know, you threw a psycho into stress management, and I'm like, "We do not need to go there."
But we do. I mean, we're talking about health and tech, and let's be honest, most people in tech are we know these people, really, really good, brilliant, lovely, kind people that are an inch from the edge because of
I
not
think
having that balance.
And I think too, it's not about them versus us. We very
No,
much
not at
go
all.
through all of this all the time,
Yes,
and stress is
yes.
something that we have to manage all day long, and it's also a choice, which is really cool about knowing the different types of stress, because if you realize that it's a choice of how you respond, yeah, your synapses in your brain are gonna say, "I really wanna react in a negative way, or in a passionate way, or in something that's, automatic to us," right? You're gonna have to fight back a little bit, but you do have the choice to turn it into something that isn't bad for you, and that can lead to something positive.
I think that's a powerful statement. um, there are so many people in this world that say, "I don't have a choice because I don't have a choice because." That's a lie. It is an outright lie. Now, that doesn't mean you have a good choice or an easy choice, but you have a choice, and it is up to you and only you to make the choice for your life to be better. It's not your employer's responsibility. It's not your wife, your husband, your children, your God, none of it. The only individual, the only entity, the only existence in this universe that can allow you to make your life better is you and your choices, whether good, bad, ugly, hard, or easy. And with that, folks, this has been another Health and Tech with Amanda Nystrom and Unlimited with Exceptions. I hope you continue to join us. Yes, we're getting a little provocative. It's only going to get worse.